Welcome back to NanoCruising. In this episode, we review insider tips and essential gear with Sailing Kate Louise and your host, Stefan Marceau.
Well, welcome back. In today's episode, Paul from Sailing Kate Louise is back to tell us more. Would you like to know about his galley box? Or about some of his tools, tips, and tricks? Would you like some advice for getting into this lifestyle? Would you like to hear some hairy stories? If so, let's continue with Paul.
I think the last video I just watched, that was last night. I think you slept on the boat before because the weather, it was raining and so on before you could even launch, right?
Yeah.
So that was your latest.
Well, that's the other joy. I mean, you can use a boat, a trailer trailer like a caravan.
That's
right.
You
can go and sleep aboard.
That's right.
I'm lucky because I do actually have a small cabin, a cuddy cabin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is tiny.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be struggling to get two people in there.
Absolutely, for sure.
It's long enough, but to swing your legs on and off the bunk, you hit the compression post for the cabin roof. And it's very tight to get in and out of. If you've got all your junk and stuff on the other, you just sleep on one and put your stuff on the other.
I see the French and English, they tend to, they sleep in their actual open dinghy and so on, but I know in Canada, everybody likes to be inside, even, no matter how small it is, we like to be inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, some of the guys that have built their boats, they're open, and you basically got to put up a boom tent, which is fine. I like having a cabin, basically. Some people don't want cabins. They just want a dinghy,
open air.
But the thing I find when we go somewhere, all my stuff's dry because it's been in the cabin. I just put it to one side. I don't even always put a boom tent up. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If it's not going to rain, I don't bother anymore. I've just got lazy because I have a canvas hatch cover as well, which is waterproof. I can get out of the rain, whereas the other guys, in the rain, they've got to put their boom tent up. Everything's got to be in dry bags. It's all got to be lashed down in case they capsize. They've got to unlash it all, get it all out, and it takes a while to set up, I'll be honest.
It's a little more planning. I know Roger Barnes goes over that quite a bit. It is planning and how it's great, but it's definitely a different world, definitely.
It's an adventure, it is fun.
It's an adventure. Yeah, it is, for sure. What do you think is your best pieces of gear and so on and for a boat like that?
I mean, the essentials are a boom tent, even if you're not going to use it. So I've had various versions, but now I use the version that's got fiberglass tent poles.
Right, like the camping type.
Yeah, exactly, exactly those.
Camping tent type.
19 mil fiberglass poles and cut to length to make hoops. And then I've a camping tarp that I used to use over my hammock when I went kayaking, because I used to always use a hammock, and that fits nicely. We always take a VHF radio so we can talk to each other, and I think that's pretty essential if you're going in a group, because
absolutely
the wind might change, somebody's outboard might break down, you might have to go back and help somebody, or you might actually change en route your destination where you're going. Even though it's on a lake, there might be 3 or 4 different campsites to get out of the wind, So we have that. Obviously, life jackets. I mean, by regulation here, you've got to have flares and various safety equipment. And, I suppose an outboard that works. I've got an electric outboard that runs off 2 gel 12-volt batteries.
Nice. Is that a Torqeedo?
It's a Torqeedo. They are quite expensive. Mine's an old one, so mine's
I think Honda just bought them, didn't they?
I don't know.
I heard something about
they're
that.
German Torqeedos, German made. Mine, it goes well. I can get up to about, I suppose, the equivalent of 4 horsepower. I don't actually have a battery smart meter. So the one downside is I fully charge the batteries, but I don't actually know how much juice I've got in there.
You don't know, right?
I've been talking about getting solar for ages, but I just haven't got around to doing it.
Have you run out?
No,
Have you run out
I've
yet?
never run
No.
out, and obviously with
So you know your limit, kind of.
well, you
right?
tend to want to sail more. It's sometimes a
Mm-hmm.
challenge to get into a jetty or something without using your outboard.
Mm-hmm.
Roger never uses his, or he often never takes one. But there again, he has got oars. You can either
Right.
scull or row in. I don't have any oars.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a paddle, obviously. But getting in, I only really use it getting in and out of where I'm going. I don't really motor distances.
Right.
But that's the other thing, that I want to go down more rivers, but I'm a bit concerned that if there's no wind, there often isn't wind on a river, you've got to motor all the way down and then turn around 3 days later and decide to come back and go, oh, I've got no battery power left. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Because you're out in the middle of nowhere, how do you charge your battery? So I haven't done many river things, but I'm very keen to do it.
So you would have to upgrade a little bit your equipment for that. You're thinking, just to know where your battery's at. Right?
Yeah. Or you go somebody else and say, look, if I run out, can you give me a tow? So,
right.
Because it's always much easier to take an extra fuel tank than it is a spare battery, because they're heavy and. But apart from that, safety equipment, I don't know. In Australia, you've sun block out a lot. Ultraviolet's pretty strong in Australia, and it's quite easy to get burnt. And I don't know, we suffer a lot from skin cancer in Australia. I mean, it is a culture to go sunbathing, but these days people go, well, why would you lie out in the sun and expose your body? But apart from that, water, I always take probably 2 liters for a day.
2 liters.
Yeah,
per day,
so I normally take a 10-liter thing, and if I'm only going overnight, I'll only half fill it. If I'm going for a few days, I'll fill it up. I tend not to.
Plus, for cooking, I guess does that include? I guess water for cooking as well, right?
It depends what sort of. If you're dehydrating, obviously you need a bit of water to rehydrate. But you're only really going to need a cup, maybe, or 2 cups. You're not going to need a lot, And also, you can rehydrate. I take long life milk and things like that as well, which you can rehydrate with. And of course, you've probably got some beers as well. You're not going to drink all your water. You're going to drink some beers, hopefully, and a decent sleeping bag, and also a decent mat. I've done a few videos on people's sleeping arrangements, and stemming from my days sleeping in a hammock, you have to have a mat or your back gets really cold in the middle of the night.
It gets really cold. I've done hammock too. Yeah, absolutely. You need something at the bottom.
I sort of learnt that, and now I've got a really good inflatable airbed. It's only thin, but it's really, really good.
Yeah, that's what I have too. It's pretty thick, but that's what I use mostly now.
And in my cuddy cabin, there's already like 1-inch foam mats, covered seating, but they're very hard. It's not very comfortable just sleeping on those. You need the addition of an airbed as well. And what else? I got USB lights, torches, and I don't know if you've seen my galley box. I made a galley box.
I've seen that. That's fantastic. That's on my list of to do. I need to build one.
They're really good. I got the idea originally from Roger Barnes, and then another guy in England called Steve Park, who has got Arwen's Meanderings is his website. He made one, and he actually had the measurements. And because he had the measurements, I thought, I'll do his version. And then I had to adapt it slightly so it sits under the thwart of the seat, so it slides in and out. And
you have to make it fit to your
basically I put everything in there. So it's got a little camping gas cooker with small cylinders, and then you've got enough room to put some food in there as well. And the top comes off and acts as a tray, and it's lined with that fireproof aluminium stuff, so it's not gonna, because it's made out of just 5mm marine ply, so you don't want it to catch fire, basically. And I have the see-through bags, and they're made out of this mesh stuff, so you can actually see what's in the bag, which is a really good idea. And inside that, I have airline bottles, so for liquids, so they're really small bottles.
Oh, I see. I see.
And I've got one with detergent, one with hand sanitizer, cooking oil.
It's all in your galley box. Well organized.
Yeah, and you need the smallest thing of toothpaste you can get, and and a spare torch and headlight. Hardly ever use my headlight, but I've got one.
You've got it down pat now for
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure you must have forgotten, like I have sometimes.
Well,
Oops, no toothpaste.
Well,
today, so.
I always forget something, and there's, if I've forgotten something, I tend to say, "Oh, guess what? I've forgotten this," and I get various comments on YouTube. "Oh, you've forgotten something again, have you?" Blah blah blah. And I had one this morning going, "I was really disappointed. You didn't forget anything."
What would you give advice for somebody looking to get into this lifestyle?
Well, I think, as Roger Barnes pointed out, the whole essence of dinghy cruising, you're probably going to do it by yourself. You don't have to do it by yourself. If you've got a partner that likes sailing, go for it. We have a couple of guys whose wives enjoy it, and they come as well. But the majority tend to be single men. I think the thing to be important is it's an escapism dream thing to go sailing. If you've never sailed in your life, a lot of people say go and join a club and learn how to sail. Learning how to sail is not hard. It's not hard at all. But you have to have.
Somebody told me it takes 30 minutes to learn to sail and 50 years to master.
Well, that's probably true. I haven't heard that before, but I like that, because you have to. I mean, what I'm aiming at is you have to have confidence. So when the wind suddenly gets stronger, you've got to know your ability. As they always say, if you start thinking about reefing, reef, because you should reef early. Right. It's much easier to shake out a reef than put a reef in by yourself if it gets really hairy. So always be aware of the weather. I use 3 different weather apps. I don't know if you have them in Canada. We have the BOM weather, which is the Bureau of Meteorology. So that's the government weather stations. They have the best weather forecasting for rain, tides, wind changes, temperatures, everything. And then I use 2 other ones called Willy Weather. I don't know if you get Willy Weather there.
Don't know that one.
That's a commercial one. And then we have Windy. There's one called Windy.
That's right. That's the one we use here. Is Windy. Absolutely.
Yeah, which has better graphics.
It's got fantastic graphic. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I use a combination of those 3. And the interesting thing is, you go to Mile Lakes and you put in Mile Lakes and it comes up with the weather. But of course, the weather is not actually measured at Mile Lakes. It's measured at where the nearest station is, right. which can be 20 or 30 kilometers away.
It might be slightly different. That's right. Yeah.
And it can be inland and you're on the coast. So you have to factor in, it's not always going to be 100% accurate. And often the wind direction is not what they say it is. It swings around or something. But I think for people that want to do it, it really is fantastic. It's the escapism, it's the sailing, it's also using wind power. So you're using nature, you're harnessing nature to get you where you want to go. And yes, there is skill involved to a certain degree, but it's easy to learn. The basics of sailing are easy to learn. Absolutely. And then it just comes with experience, really, and confidence. You get more and more confident the more you do it.
Right, absolutely.
And with my boat that's got 3 sails, you learn combinations.
Yeah, you have to learn your boat as well, right? It's not just sailing. You adapt to your boat's condition too, right? So
that's right. I tend to feel now with the Stornoway, I probably need another 30 kilos of ballast. I need more ballast, or I need somebody else on the boat, because it can get a bit chippy in gusts when it gets strong if you've got too much sail up.
Well, there's the answer. Get more batteries.
Yeah. So you learn your boat. I mean, I've watched a guy. You have Siren 17s, don't you?
Yeah, we do. They're very common here. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never seen one in Australia, but
the Canadian made, so that'll be why.
Yeah. Oh, well, there was a guy who's got a channel called Siren or Siren 17, and he sails around the Great Lakes, and I've watched him, a French guy. I can't remember.
Yeah, I've
his name.
seen that one. You're right. I forget the name. I've seen it.
He's doing what we're doing, but your lakes seem to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, our group does tend to go to little lakes all over the place. Like they go to Georgian Bay, which is part of Lake Huron, but they go there. They go to Rice Lake, which is smaller. Like they go different lakes. So kind of like your group. Yeah. Don't know a lot of small sailors that go on Lake Ontario per se in some areas, but right out there, not so much.
Because it's basically like an inland sea, isn't it? I mean, it can get quite
It
hairy.
is. It's large, so you have to stay fairly close to coastal areas. But there's some areas that are pretty, like you say, pretty exposed. There's nowhere else to go once you're out there, right? So
yeah, that's the issue. We have a place south of Sydney called Jervis Bay, which claims to have the whitest sand in the world. But everybody claims to have the whitest sand in the world
Right.
and the oldest pub in the
that's
oldest
right.
pub in the
We've
world.
got the same thing.
They all
That's
claim
right.
that. But it is, and it's beautiful, and a lot of it is reserved fish breeding, etc. So you can't fish in a lot of it, and the water is crystal clear.
Nice.
But there's very few places to shelter if it gets hairy. Did you want to know some hairy moments?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to go. What are your unexpected or challenging situations you've had?
Well, I had one on this last raid. It was really weird. It's never happened before. I went to reef the mainsail, and I've got
I saw that. Your Cunningham broke? Is that what happened? Or?
Yeah, well, it's a shackle that's got a spring-loaded pin. I undid it, and the pin and the spring flew straight over the side. And I'm going, what am I going to do now? So I had to sort of lash down the tack of the sail.
That works.
And it was fine, I got in somewhere. And I was talking to the other guys. It happened to two other people. Exactly the same thing. The spring flew out of the shackle. And it's never happened before. So what are the chances of it happening to three people on the same day? It's unbelievable.
On the same day? No way.
On the same day. My God. But when I was tidying up the boat, I actually found the pin in the bilge.
Oh, jeez.
What had happened, the spring had flown over the side, but the pin was still on board. So, and the split ring, that what happens is the split ring comes undone, and that's the only thing holding the pin in. And I found both of those, so it was easy enough just to get a spring and put it in, because those shackles are about $50 each. They're not cheap, And that's not really a hairy moment. I remember when, not long after I'd got the boat, I decided I was going to go offshore. Call me crazy. There is an island off Pittwater called Lion Island. It's not very far out, but you are into ocean. So the next stop is New Zealand. And I decided I was going to sail around this island, and the weather was okay going out.
How far is it? I'm sorry.
It's only like a couple of kilometers.
Oh, okay.
Not very far.
Still.
And, or maybe not in that, maybe 1 kilometer. But it does, there's a lot of swell there, 2 or 3 meter swell, because it's sort of shallow. You're going up and down quite a bit. I went out around the island, and then the wind came up, and I thought, okay, I'll turn around to come back. And I couldn't turn around.
Oh, no.
I couldn't tack.
Oh, no.
Well, basically, it's a combination of two things. I had too much sail up at the time, and I don't have a centerboard. So I had nothing to pivot on. The Stornoway with a skeg keel is like an old fishing boat. So it's very slow to turn around. And basically, you have to backwind the jib or the genoa to push the nose around.
I've done that. Absolutely.
Every time I tried to do that, I got to the middle point and it would just stall. So it wouldn't go through the wind to tack. And I go, oh my God, how am I going to turn around? This is ridiculous. And the wind was getting stronger and stronger. So in the end, I dropped the main, just went with the genoa and the mizzen, and did a controlled jibe going the other way. And then that was fine. And then I put the main back up again. At the time, because I wasn't experienced, I was a little bit frantic, I'll be honest. I did have a radio, and, you're not miles out to sea.
No,
a lot of people sail yachts there, so you're not really going to get into strife.
But
that's probably the hairiest moment I've had.
That's not bad.
Since then, I've learned to respect the weather more.
And I think that's the key. They call me something the chicken, because I really, if it gets really above 20 plus, no, I'm not going out. So
yeah, the same with me. 20 knots, God no, I don't go out in 20 knots unless I have to. No. My boat is good anywhere from 5 to 10 to 12 knots. Anything above 10 knots, you got to put a reef in.
Right.
Anything above sort of 12 to 15, I'd probably drop the main and just go with the genoa and the mizzen. And that's quite comfortable. People tend to think you're going to go slower if you reef. That's not strictly true. You probably can go the same speed. You're just going more comfortably, more, you're not heeling over so much, and you're going just as fast.
That's right. That's correct.
So don't be afraid to drop your main. Don't be afraid to reef.
Absolutely.
I think half the problem with people sailing, if you watch some of these videos of people, there's lots of videos of people going in and out of harbors, and they're nearly getting wrecked because they're trying to do the impossible. And they think they can do it. Well, just don't do it.
No, that's right. Don't put yourself in that position to start with. Exactly. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go crack a beer. I know you're still at breakfast, but...
Yeah, it's only 10:20 in the morning here. It's a bit early for me, I'll be honest.
7:20 here, so here we go.
Well, have one for me.
Absolutely. It was wonderful talking to you. Really enjoyed my time.
And it's been wonderful talking to you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Talk to you soon.
Well, I hope this was as interesting to you as this was interesting for me. Because after all, NanoCruising is for you. In our next episode, we also have a very intrepid adventurer, a Canadian fellow named Lorne Kelly, who built a row cruiser. That's by Angus Rowing. So he built a row cruiser, and we'll find out the details. And he traveled most of the Great Lakes over the course of 3 summers. This is a very interesting story and lots of details, so I can't wait to share this with you. As always, we want to hear from you, our loyal listeners. Join the conversation by connecting with us on our Facebook group, NanoCruising, or visit our website at nanocruising.com, where you can also subscribe to our mailing list to be notified about upcoming episodes. If you like this podcast, also don't forget to tell your friends. I appreciate the help in making our podcast grow. And finally, share your own dinghy cruising stories. Provide feedback on the podcast and help us steer the course for future episodes of NanoCruising. Also, if you have some salty stories and would like to share them, feel free to reach out, and who knows, your story could even be featured in an upcoming episode. I'm your NanoCruising host, Stefan Marceau. Until next time, seize your own adventure.